TitleMatchNetwork.com.
It's one of Jim Crockett Sr.'s pet towns. Dusty told us, he says, after the bashes, he says, we want to bring y'all up. They already had the new breed there. And he says, I want to bring y'all up after the bash. Well, no, Chris Champion had a car wreck. And hurt his, his arm, or had a plate in there, and he was out. He said, we need a young babyface team to go on the B towns to work with Midnight Express, because it was going to be new breed spot. They were already up, that happened. Sean was doing singles. So we have plans for Sean, this, all that. And he says, we'll bring you up after the bashes. Well, it was kind of going down then. The bashes were going to be good. We knew, everybody knew it was kind of going to die. Promises didn't work out. You know how it is, and all that. Well, Steve and I did those 3 shows, and the money that we got paid was not near what Bobby and Stan got, which at the time we weren't expecting to get what they were getting. But I can't remember what the figure was. But wasn't near what they got, and that. And Steve was homesick. I was pretty homesick. Steve had a wife and 2 kids. We had an apartment together in Tampa. His wife was living in Gulf Breeze. We got that pay out and saw how much, those guys made triple what we made. But back then, we didn't deserve to get near what they got, and we knew that, but still, we were just frustrated, young guys. Dusty had us booked on 4, back then they do, the old WTBS Atlanta, they would do the 4 tapes, 4 TVs, you know what I mean? They do that. And we were getting wins on all tapes on that TBS Atlanta, and we didn't go. We walked. We went home. We got our money, got our checks, and we walked out. That was a big mistake.
We walked out on Crockett.
Steve and I did. Yeah, we sure did. Yeah, 1987. So young guys out there don't ever do that.
Well, you ended up going there.
Yeah, 3 years later. 3 years later. 3 years later.
Why did you walk?
Because, as I said, we worked those 3 shows. We weren't making good money in Florida. It really went down. In developmental, it was hard because the only time the shows would do good was when Crockett would bring his guys in and kill it. You know what I mean? And all the Florida guys were, we were underneath and we meant nothing, and we weren't making good money. Steve was, paying double rent.
So you guys felt that you were
young, stupid.
But you felt like you were working hard enough where you should have been paid more?
Well,
you felt?
Now you look at it, come on. Bobby and Stan were hot. Bobby and Dennis, phenomenal. One of the greatest heel teams ever.
Right.
Well, we didn't get near what they got. We got paid about $800. I don't know what they got, but I heard 4 times what we got, and they deserved it. I'm not saying that. But we just felt disrespected. We'd been 6 months, and the promises and this, us, and we knew after the bashes was when they were going to bring us up, that wasn't going to be good on the B towns. We were honored to work with Bobby and Stan, and some of them guys weren't making money. You know what I mean? And on the B towns,
Were things that much better, I guess, down in Florida?
No, they weren't good in Florida either. It wasn't good in Florida either after the developmental started.
So you just felt disrespected.
That and knew that that it wasn't going to work, and we knew we were going to go work for Crockett and starve because you're on the road. Back then, they didn't pay your hotel, rent a car. They didn't pay any of that.
So
you could be up north like it is. The cost of living up here is higher, and you'd be going up there a lot, not making good, and you almost come in the hole sometimes. Sure. So we walked. It's spur of the moment, young. Steve wanted to go his family. I miss my girlfriend, Denise Carruthers. Young guy. 1987, I was about 23, 24 years old. Now I'm 50. I feel like 100. But anyway, and we walked. We did. We walked. And I can remember us leaving and splitting. I went home and I was going to quit the business. I went back working on the farm, cutting tobacco. Wow. And I'd run. I'd lift weights in the morning and I'd run. After I'd done that day, I'd run. It was like 2 miles to my car, and I'd jog. And I'd picking up hay, cutting tobacco. Jerry Jarrett called me, and I thought I was going to Continental. That's one reason we left, is because we thought we had a spot in Continental. Well, Robert Fuller, Ron Fuller, Bob Armstrong on the territory, okay? And this is what happens in the wrestling business. We thought we had a job there, That's why the main reason we walked. But the others, we felt disrespect. Yeah, we thought maybe later down the road we shouldn't have done that. At least one thing, we'd got 4 wins on that TV back then, nationwide TV in '87. That's a big deal. And at least if we was going to do it, do that, then go. But it's not smart to do it anyway. But anyway, I didn't get to go to Continental right away. Steve did. You know why? You want to hear this. But it's a true story, you know. And that's how things happen in this business. The guys out there, mistakes you make when you're young in any walk of life can come back and get you when you're older. It just is, especially in the wrestling business.
Sure.
It's political, it's everything. Y'all know what I mean, you know. Well, Steve's working Continental, thought I had a starting date. Well, Ron pulled the plug, gave the book to Robert Fuller, to Robert, his brother, you know, and instead of Bob taking it. And Bob, you know, was all right with it. He had his guarantee.
Robert Fuller, for people who don't know that, he was Colonel Robert Parker.
Yep. In WCW, and then Tennessee Lee and WWE. Yeah, Tennessee Stud and all that before that. Tennessee Lee and, you know, and for Vince, he managed Jeff. And so Robert got the book, and back then it's when Sean and Marty, the Rockers, worked for Vern, went to New York, and then that whatever happened with Dynamite when he peeled them up or something, and they got fired. I don't know what happened. It was a rib, something crazy. I don't know, a hotel room, a bar, or whatever. Sean and Marty got fired. You knew that, right? I'm at home working, you know, and working, cutting the back out in the field, and somebody told me that's close to when the kayfabe sheet Meltzer started coming out. You know what I mean? In there, and one of my buddies called me. It wasn't on a cell phone. He didn't have. I got home, I had a message on my phone that said, "Man, the Rockers got fired in you know, in WWF." And all that. I was like, "Wow, you guys were young and around our age," and you know, great team, of course. You know, enough said of that. But anyway, Robert Fuller brought him into Continental, so that knocked me out of a spot. Steve was still there as a single, but they didn't really have a lot of plans for him. They were going to bring us in, but they thought these guys, they were on the ESPN TV,
right,
you know, and it had a little TV coverage with WWF, so it meant a lot more than us being there, you know, and all that. And of course, you know, well, Tracy's cutting tobacco. I thought I had a job, and I couldn't get in with Jerry Jarrett because they thought I was going to Continental, and then they said, well, we don't know if the Rockers may end up going back, you know, to Vince. Jerry Jarrett would give me a job because he thought I'd be leaving, so I'm not working. I cut the back all summer for 3 months. Brent. Yeah, I'm an old man. Well, I wasn't then. But kicking my ass, man. Everybody talking shit to me. Got a big time wrestler out here in the damn tobacco field, white-eyed in tobacco field, can't pick up hay no more. You too damn good. 'Cause I want to wrestle.
Right.
But I'd work, and I started training, and Jerry Jarrett called me and gave me a job. I went back and worked in Tennessee, in Tennessee for Jerry Jarrett, and I got to work a lot with Pat Tanaka, Paul Diamond. They were the Bad Company, and did that. Did a lot with them, and Steve came up because he wasn't happy in Continental, and he worked a little while with me. Didn't get paid good. Kind of felt disrespected by Jeff Jarrett and Billy Travis because they were putting him back together, and they were over as the team. They put them together as a team. People related they were good, you know, and we were underneath them, so he wasn't going to make decent money. And Steve knew he could go back to Continental and do better and be home, you know. So he left, and the Nasty Boys were in then. Remember them, Nasty Boys? Yeah. Well, I don't know what happened, but all I know is Bob called me and said that the Rockers had walked. Okay? Now, had nothing to do with me. The story I was talking, now back then, Rock and Roll Express was still hot. They were still really over. You know, they really were. They were really over.
Sure.
And the Rockers were kind of a copy off of them. So that was kind of back in the South, where the Rock and Roll was really over. They're not saying that they were great, but it kind of hurt them having that gimmick, you know, and the Turksana and something happened. Ronnie West, Sean, you know, they were real big ribbers, you know, and Sean wrote on the back of some kid whose dad was a big wig, helped support, sponsor, do it Birmingham, wrote on the back of his shirt or something, said queers are people too. So Ronnie West told Bob Armstrong to fire him, and Bob liked him. Bob had no problem with him, you know, but Bob had to be the one to fire him because Ronnie was running the place, you know, and Bob was booking it, you know. They gave the book back to Bob, you know, and Robert, you know, because it wasn't drawing. Robert, you know, I don't know, you know, but anyway, Bob's the one in Florence, Alabama, went up and gave them their notice, you know, And they walked that night. So Bob called me and said, can you be down here such and such day? I said, I got to give a 2-week notice. I said, this is my home. I can't walk out on them. You know, I can't do that again. I already did it with Crockett, you know. And I said, I'm cutting the back of Bob. I hope you understand. Yeah.
Watch thousands of exclusive shoot interviews right now on TitleMatchNetwork.com.